Hello, everyone. Welcome to our webinar on finding your AFC, your Affordable Family Contribution. I'm Karen Hott with Two Bridges College Consulting, and I'm here today with Claire Law, author of How to Control Your College Costs and the inventor of the AFC concept, the Affordable Family Contribution concept. Claire?
Well, thank you, Karen. Very nice of you. Yes, I just finished publishing this book, which is about what families can do and what IECs can do to take better control of the current college costs, because we know that the outstanding student loan debt is a million and what is it, a trillion and a half. So we don't want to have our students go to college and run up a big bill. So I'm Claire Law. I am an ICA professional member. I've been a member since 2001, 1999 actually. And when I'm talking about the affordable family contribution, I'm actually referring to an amount that families can pay out of their own resources. So they have to consider how much they can pay from current income. Do they have any savings? How much can they pay from their savings? Is there an aunt or an uncle who could possibly help out? Can they borrow? And if so, can they borrow judiciously without damaging their family financial situation? So that is an affordable family contribution that gives the family more control, because regardless of what the colleges want you to pay, you need to look after your own interest, just like colleges look after their own interest, and figure out what's your budget and what's affordable for the family so that the student can graduate in 4 years. So, Karen, I would like to go on about the affordable family contribution, but I'll just leave it there. It's the affordable family contribution is an amount that families can handle, because there's no sense sending a child to college when you can only pay for 4 years or you haven't even thought about the following years.
Or the siblings coming up behind them. Exactly.
Exactly, yeah.
So today we have with us Harry, who's the father of one of my students in Maryland. Um, he's going to help us have a test case today that will show us with real numbers how we can actually figure out a real person's AFC.
Okay, yeah. The federal expected. Hello, Harry. Thank you for
Hi.
joining us today.
Sure.
Yes, hi Harry. I was just introducing the webinar group to Claire Law. Um,
Okay.
Right. Okay, well, it's very nice to have you with us, Harry. Thank you for sharing your experience as a uh, family, as a dad whose children are going to college for the first time. So, we're talking about first time undergraduate students going to college, and what can parents do to prepare themselves, especially in this era of shifting economics, formulas behind the form that are changing. We know that the Consolidated Appropriations Act of 2021 will change the rationale by which families are assessed. Who is the parent is going to be a huge issue. So, for example, Harry, just to let you know,
hmm
your child will graduate when?
Uh, High school? Yeah. Next year, so spring of 22.
Okay, so
Mm-hmm.
as of 2022, see, only one parent files the FAFSA.
Right.
And as of 2022, the parent who will file is the parent who houses and feeds the student the most. So
Mm-hmm.
in a divorce situation, it's whoever the student lives with the most.
Right.
which is
Right.
unique in your situation because you have an exact 50-50
That is true,
split.
but in terms of expenses, it's very much towards my end of things.
Okay.
So it make total sense. And the other thing is that on my taxes, I declare Josh, where she does not. So it would, in terms of FAFSA, I would think with the amount of expenses for both he and his sister that I pay for, and the tax situation, it would only make sense that it would be me.
Perfect, because up
Mm-hmm.
until, just for the listeners, starting in 2023-24, it no longer matters where the student lives. It's whoever
Okay.
provides more financial support.
Okay.
So in this setting, we have the litmus test is complete. We know that Harry is going to file the FAFSA because one,
Yes.
he shares 50-50 custody right now, but the second step of the litmus test is who provides more support. So clearly, he is the parent who will file a FAFSA.
Exactly. Mm-hmm.
Great.
When you file the FAFSA, do you also claim your other child?
No. Per the divorce agreement, their mother is supposed to claim my daughter.
Okay.
Oh,
Okay.
So that could be an interesting um, caveat or curveball, so to speak, because when the time comes for my daughter in 3 years, 3 or 4 years, um, it the FAFSA application and process could be a little trickier um, because of that, um, and because of the very tricky divorce situation that exists. Um, for example, I don't even know if taxes have been paid by their mother. So it could be a really throw a definite curveball into that situation.
It sounds like your daughter will go to college in 2 or 3 years when the rules will be different and the
Okay.
family, so the family size will be based on who claims the children on their federal income tax returns.
Right.
And so the dependency status will be based on the tax definition of dependent as opposed to what it is now in 2021-22, which is whoever houses and whoever lives with the child the most.
Okay.
So that the divorce settlement and support agreement can come into play.
Mm-hmm.
Who claim, for instance, you just said that your wife is supposed to claim your daughter on the federal income tax return. So you're right. At that point, there'll be two different things: which parent files the FAFSA and which parent claims the child on their federal income tax return. And that is not 100% clear because it's all new legislation that was
Okay.
passed. Yeah, so for now, just staying with what we know now is you have a son who's going to college in 2022.
Right.
You are clearly the one who will file the FAFSA.
Right.
And therefore, the amount of federal aid and institutional aid that you will receive, that your child will receive, will be based on your income situation.
Okay.
It'll be based on your adjusted gross income that will be downloaded into the FAFSA from the IRS department automatically.
Okay.
There is what they call a data retrieval tool. And so when you file FAFSA and you say, yes, data retrieval tool, everything will come down and populate your FAFSA form in the correct fields with the information that you have entered on your IRS form 1040.
Oh, okay. Well, that's very convenient. Okay.
it's very convenient. It,
Yeah.
it prevents you from making mistakes.
Right.
Yeah. But when I was looking at your family budget,
Mm-hmm.
I was wondering, does your wife work, your spouse?
My my
Your current
my current
step.
work, unfortunately, not at this time. Her father needs 24-hour care, and her mother is also has some major health issues, so she is pretty much full time at this point, um, taking care of them.
Mm-hmm.
On the information I gave you, my main job with the health care and the benefits, everything, I'm a is 69,000, and then I have extra rental income that comes in 27,000 from a house that I own and rent out.
Okay, so let's see. Is that why you have two mortgages?
That would be the
I took
second.
I I have right. I actually what basically I pay $1,000 a month in rent to my father-in-law, whose house we live in, and
Okay.
then I have uh, one mortgage that's 933, and another mortgage that's 453. I used that second mortgage to help um, redo renovate the house so that I could rent it for income.
Got it. Got it. Okay. So your when the colleges look at your ability to pay for college, they will look at your 1040 IRS 1040 individual tax return for 2020
Right,
because they look at the prior year, and your son is going to college in 2022.
right.
So in 2020, have you filed your taxes this?
No, actually, I'm filing them on Thursday, but
Okay.
I've done some rough calculations for you in terms of total tax and stuff like that,
Mm-hmm.
that I believe I sent Karen this morning.
Yes,
That should
I
give you
was
an idea.
looking for that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. What the federal expected family contribution is a minimum amount that parents are expected to pay. In other
Okay.
words, the government is going to help you pay for college, but you have to put skin in the game first.
Of course.
And so they're going to look at your income tax return, and especially they're going to pay attention to your line 8B on your Form 1040, which is your adjusted gross income
Okay.
after everything is included, like your tax exempt interest, qualified dividends, IRA
Hmm.
distributions, pensions and annuities, Social Security benefits, capital gains or losses, any other income, and adjustments to income.
Right.
So that forms your adjusted gross income, and then of course you're taking your standard deduction for married filing jointly, I assume.
Right. And this is a kind of an interesting, tricky year. This is the first year where I will be. We were married on New Year's Eve, so I will be declaring my new wife as a dependent along with Josh. And so this is a unique tax year that I really haven't had before because I've got quite a bit more income coming in and an extra dependent to declare.
Okay.
So I don't have exact numbers, unfortunately, because I'm not sure with the appointment on Thursday how they will turn out. But I can certainly give you an approximate amount of total tax that I think will be taken out to
Okay.
arrive at my adjusted gross income.
Do you have an idea for the tax that you may end up paying?
I would think it would be around 18,000.
Okay. All right. And do you have any idea what your adjusted gross might be?
Um, I would think that you would take the let's see. Um, I would think it would be around here. Let me hold on one moment. I think
Sure.
it would be. Um, Give me just one moment. Grab
Sure.
a calculator. Hold on one second.
Yep. Yep. And meanwhile, what we need to take into consideration, Karen, is how much
Mm-hmm.
the FAFSA is lining up with the IRS form. So now that the DRT, the data retrieval tool, has been approved and works fine, and the download onto FAFSA is blacked out, so it's redacted. You don't really see, the child doesn't see what's being downloaded from IRS. But the more and more the IRS is lining up with FAFSA or FAFSA with IRS. So it's
Is that a good thing?
well, yeah, it should make it easier.
Seems like a good
Yeah,
thing.
there shouldn't be any need for verification once that's done. It's just that it
Right.
remains to be seen how colleges will take that. And I think that the FAFSA formulas are becoming, are favoring the single parent household, the low income family. Although this year for 2021 and 22, the Pell Grant is based on the adjusted gross income. If it's below 50,000, they may receive some Pell Grant. And then in 2023, it'll go up to 60,000. And so there is a chance that more people, like the lower middle class, will be able to get some Pell Grant. You know what I mean? Because that's, once they get the Pell Grant, they may qualify for the Supplemental Educational Opportunity Grant. Not much, but some colleges have that. So,
Claire, I think that again, this is just an estimate,
Right.
but I think my gross, after everything was taken out, the tax wise, I think my adjusted would be about 92,000, somewhere in that range.
okay, all right, that's enough. That means you don't
Yeah.
qualify for the Pell Grant. You
Okay.
don't qualify for any federal free aid, unfortunately. I'm sorry.
Okay.
But you will qualify depending on the schools and the cost of the schools. You may qualify for, your student may qualify for the subsidized direct loan. Just
Okay.
a little bit of it, at like $3,500 subsidized loan in first year,
Okay.
$4,500 subsidized loan in second year, and then $4,500 in third and fourth year.
Okay.
So
What is, just if you don't mind my asking, what is the limit for you to be able to receive the federal aid that you just mentioned?
yeah, every student can borrow up to $5,500 in first year.
Okay.
2,000 is always unsubsidized. The
Okay.
subsidized, the government is paying the interest on it until the student graduates. But students can only borrow a very tiny amount, like $5,500 in first year, $6,500 in second year, $7,500 in third and fourth year.
Okay.
But the parents can take out the PLUS loan, the parent loan for undergraduate students, and they can actually borrow the rest, whatever they need
All the way up
Right.
to the cost of
attendance.
attendance.
So let's say that your child's school that costs $35,000, and he's taking 5,500 loan. So that brings it down to what, 29,500. Then you could borrow up to 29,500 minus any other aid that the school will give you.
Okay.
And Karen is very good at matching students with their best college fit.
Right.
So when the college sees that the student is the type of student they want, has the SAT and scores and grades that they want, they're likely to give him a scholarship.
Okay.
And then he can keep the scholarship every year if he maintains a certain grade point average.
Okay.
Yeah, so those are very good, those scholarships, because
Okay.
they lessen the amount that you will have to pay.
And what amount of my adjusted gross income would it have to be to get the more aid you were speaking of?
Well, in 2023-24, the lower middle class, I don't even know how you define it, but
Right.
anyone who earns less than $60,000 for a family of four a year
Okay.
will likely still qualify for some Pell Grant. Not much, but some.
Oh, so I would be well above it no matter what.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
I've got no
will
hope.
only, yeah, I'm pretty sure that you will only qualify for the federal loans.
Right. Even if I
which
didn't have my
pretty-
rental income, I still wouldn't qualify. So yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Right. So it's
So-
really, you really have and the Pell Grant is not very much. It's $6,500 or something
Not
like
even
that.
yeah.
So-
64.35.
Right. So,
Oh, wow. Okay.
yeah. So
It's
it
not
doesn't,
a year of college. Okay.
No.
No. I'm
Yeah.
working with a student who has a zero EFC, and the he got the SEOG also. So he's getting, the Pell Grant and the SEOG, but he can't go anywhere for what was it, $7,500. He
Right.
just, there's nowhere that's gonna.
That's good.
Except
Go.
community college.
Right.
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 It would pay for community college,
Right.
but not for University of Maryland, Scarborough, College Park, any of those branches.
Mhm.
So the so so then
So
the
you had,
colleges. Go ahead.
well, I was looking back at my emails, and you had used the College Board calculator, correct,
Yes.
Harry?
And I wrote down here what both the federal methodology results were and the institutional methodology.
So you're way ahead of the game. That's great. So
What
you want
was
to tell
it?
us what the
Sure. The
federal
federal
methodology?
methodology, after I put in all the stuff they asked for, I used the College Board link that you sent me.
Good.
Parental contribution 14,394. Student contribution 1,000 to come to a total of 15,394.
Okay, very good.
And what was the institutional methodology?
Institutional was quite a bit higher. Parents 18,736. Students 3,500
Mm-hmm.
to come to a total of 22,236.
Yeah, that doesn't surprise me.
No.
Not at all.
And even those, even though those are high numbers,
Mm-hmm.
they're not as shocking as
No, really, I
most.
was actually pleasantly surprised, believe it or not, looking at that because you hear these astronomical racket numbers sometimes. That was actually kind of pleased to see those numbers.
The problem will come though when you get gapped, because what the college, Claire can explain this better than I can, but let me take a stab at it, Claire.
Okay,
Go right ahead.
So you're expected to pay, let's say 15,
right,
and the college costs 75. So they say, okay, you have to pay at least 15.
right,
That leaves you with, uh,
60,
thank you,
yeah,
60. Well, sometimes what they'll do is they'll say, well, look, you can take out a Parent Plus loan for $60,000 and then your cost is zero.
right. That
Which
doesn't
is,
make sense.
no,
Right,
no, it doesn't. But that's why Claire and I are on a mission to get all these colleges to use the form that the government wants them to use,
right, okay,
where they and we'll get to that point eventually. But
okay,
so the gap would be, so they would say, we expect you to pay this much, and then let's say they give him $5,000 to
Mhm.
as a scholarship. It still wouldn't be enough to reach that 75,000
Right,
cost.
right,
So that's what the gapping is. Did I do
okay.
that right, Claire?
Absolutely. I was trying to find
You had a graphic for that.
yeah, I do have a graphic. I was trying to look for it and see if I could find a filled out form. Okay, can I share my screen?
You
Sure.
can.
Okay, all right. So let's see if I can. Uh,
I
share
have
my
all our other ones too, from Apples to Apples.
Yeah, that would be good. That would be good to show Harry.
Sure.
Okay, so let me just take this. Well, this is actually a zero EFC. It's someone who lives below the poverty line, and went to his own in-state institution.
Okay,
The room and board there is 10,400, and the cost of attendance would be 21,000 to go to his own in-state, University of Florida.
okay,
So he got a merit scholarship for $4,000. He got a state grant. Well, he got a little bit of this, a little bit of that. It wasn't
Right.
just, it was Florida need-based grant. need. This is
Really bright
the
futures.
Bright Futures, yes, and then another $600 merit.
Mm-hmm.
And then you see he got the full Pell Grant for 2022, 21,
Mm-hmm.
22, which went up about $150, so it's 6,495. And then he's he was a student with exceptional need, so they gave him a supplemental educational opportunity grant for $200. So
Okay.
they've given him 20,295. So actually, this is it doesn't get better than that. Yeah, I seldom see this kind of situation as.
So the 21,000 was the tuition. That does not include the room and board, correct?
I think it did. No.
Oh, it
Yeah.
does. Okay.
Yeah, it does. In state, in Florida, University of Florida must be about 11,000 or so.
Okay.
So yeah, that's
Okay.
so. And he also got federal work study, and that again is a federal program in conjunction with the college. So he can work and earn up to $1,145.
Okay.
But students, I mean, if your student is enterprising, you could find a job that's not earmarked for federal work study. So this is a very good financial aid package, which I wish James, your student, had applied to the
Oh, she's talking about my student.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yes.
so
Yeah.
I mean,
Okay. Mm-hmm.
they are meeting all of his need minus 5%, which is almost nothing. So yeah, this is a very good financial aid award. But what happens normally is that, let's say that this student was going to a school that cost 71,430, and you know what? Goucher, Worcester, so many colleges near you. University, what is it? Western Maryland College is now called McDaniel's College. So these are all 70-some thousand dollars, and look at what would happen now. This
Right.
this student's need. Well, the students can pay none of that, and so the $20,000 in free federal aid and state aid will bring it down to about 50,000.
Right.
But then how is he going to pay for the rest?
Right.
So he got 20,295 in aid. Oh no, it didn't adjust. Oh, what a shame. I thought it was active. It did not adjust. Why is that? Maybe because I'm here. There would be a gap. There
yeah.
would be a gap.
I can show a worse gap. You
Yeah.
want to do the one from Loyola?
Yeah, do that one.
Let me do that one. Here we go.
Because that's why you want to
This
work
was-
with Karen.
Right. Yeah.
And
So this was for a student for this year who's going to be graduating this year.
Okay.
He applied to and I put in big red letters over here this fine print that they hadn't noticed. The scholarship and the institutional aid that he got are only good as long as the student lives on campus.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah.
That's
So you got
Yeah.
right. So this is the federal formula, or not formula. This is the federal form that I created as a Word document that clearly delineates the difference between loans and scholarships. So this kid, here's the cost of attendance at Loyola of Maryland, 70,900. They gave him 20,000 a year as a scholarship, which is good only as long as he's on campus, and another 9,000. But there's still $41,000, almost $42,000 a year that they would have to pay.
Right.
And then this form, we took the numbers from Loyola and put them into this form so we could see, okay, so they make too much money to get any of the student direct loan the federal
Okay.
direct loan
The
subsidized at all.
subsidized.
So,
Right.
right, they don't get any subsidized. So the full 5,500 would be unsubsidized, meaning that interest starts accruing right away.
Okay.
We didn't put any, I didn't put in the Parent Plus federal loan, but they probably would have put in what, Claire, the 41.9 as a
The
Parent Plus loan?
difference, yeah, what they could do is they could do 41.9 minus whatever the student can take out. So
The 55.
minus
Okay.
55. So they're saying, hey, Dad, if you want to take out a Parent Plus loan for 36,400, have at it. You know, we can
Right.
certify you for
Year.
that amount.
A year, right? It's not just
Right.
one loan, right?
It's a exactly, and that's something that
It doesn't
Claire
hit
also
you right away.
emphasizes, that
Yeah.
you got to remember that this is at least a 4-year deal, and we hope
Mhm.
that that they get out in 4 years, that
Right.
they do things wisely. I'm going to stop
Right.
sharing that.
So someone who, with that package, that family, that family would be paying 145,600 over 4 years.
Right.
So you're spending quite a chunk of change, which most families don't have, and
Mhm.
some students want to continue on to grad school. So
Right.
so it is difficult when a student goes to college for the first time and runs up this kind of a bill. And as long as parents keep paying it and borrowing, and as long as nobody says anything, the colleges have no incentive to tighten their belt and lower the costs.
Right.
In fact, there is a theory, it's called the Bennett hypothesis. I just read about that. And what it says is that when you buy something and there is a way to get a discount, it enables the company, the industries, to raise their prices and gain some of those subsidies for themselves. And this
Okay.
is very common in higher education,
Right.
which also
Okay.
prevents other colleges from entering the market
Okay.
because they're keeping the prices are so high and they couldn't compete.
Okay.
Prices are high. Now, I wanted to talk, we have about 15 minutes left. I
Okay.
wanted to just touch on the CSS profile. We weren't going to get into that too much, but because Harry's ex-wife is very confrontational and maybe hasn't paid taxes, should we try to avoid CSS profile schools?
Well,
What's your opinion on that?
I just want to reassure Harry that your financial information that you give to the financial aid administrators would never be shared with your ex-spouse.
Right.
Right.
And her information would not be shared with you either. So it
Oh,
would be
that's good to know, because
yeah.
that was actually one of the questions I had. Was there's always a concern. I mean, for example, I have some child support, which I may have forgotten to put on my list there, of 155 a month, which is nothing. But you know, once the child's in school, they're 18, it won't affect that anymore. But it is I'm glad you said that, because I was curious as to what would be shared with the exes and what would
No,
not. Yeah.
no, nothing is shared. And I had that concern when my daughter was had to fill out the CSS profile.
Right.
My biggest difficulty was getting her father to get the information in, to get
Right.
his, that was the toughest part. But we ended up getting it done, and she ended up getting money because of it. So
Mm-hmm.
The difference with the CSS profile is that all of your assets will be counted. Your home equity, the home that you have that you're renting. So when your home equity is high, I usually tell my families to just limit it to 2 times your wages, whichever is lower.
Okay.
Limit what?
Because the home equity for the profile, the standard rule is multiply your wages times 2, and that's a pretty good average for how profile colleges evaluate
Oh, and so you don't
families.
want to put, so if you have more than that, you wouldn't want to put that amount?
No, you
Okay.
wouldn't.
I see what you're saying.
You're okay with two times your
Hmm.
salary
Okay.
for equity in your home.
Okay.
And
But
usually,
what if his equity is more?
yeah, I mean,
You can do that? You can just leave it off?
well, it's usually, you're pretty safe doing that.
Okay.
Multiplying your
Okay.
your wages
Okay.
times two is pretty safe. And I've
Okay.
worked with, Paula Bishop, for instance, is a CPA, and she does that a lot, and she hasn't had any issues.
Okay, that's
Yeah,
really good to know.
they may look at Zillow or something, but what does Zillow really know?
Yeah, Zillow doesn't know
They wouldn't know
what,
that,
oh, right,
wouldn't know your equity.
right.
So the difference there is that if Karen if Karen finds some schools for the student that use the CSS profile form, then both ex-spouses' income tax returns will be evaluated, and sometimes it creates a difficult dialogue if the spouses aren't working together, if the ex-spouses aren't coordinating. It can be almost damaging to the student. I've had students apply to Boston College, Middlebury. Um, these schools insisted on having the student require the income tax returns from both parents, and the parents weren't working together. It was not an easy situation for the student to then move away from that college. She'd fallen in love with Middlebury,
Right.
but she couldn't swing it because the dad didn't want to fill out the forms. When he did fill out the CSS profile, he didn't want to contribute. So it
Hmm.
was a no-win situation for the student. It was not good for the student emotionally. So
Right.
if you know that you're entering a difficult situation, you might want to tell Karen,
So Karen's fully
don't,
aware.
I know.
It's,
well, you might want to tell Karen,
I
avoid
feel bad that Karen
schools.
went through a difficult divorce as well, but
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
nice to know that someone, uh, the person that I've hired to help me with this really has knowledge of the difficulty of those types of situations, because it is quite, all you can do sometimes is just sigh and say, why does it have to be this way? And um, even though you have the divorce agreements done and everything, there can just be such tension that never seems to go away. So I think I'm approaching it in that manner, in that I will be the one to, not only for Josh, who makes sense because he's on my tax returns, but I will have to, when we approach Paige's situation, I will have to do that as I'll have to be the one that initiates all of this as well.
Yeah. Well, there are lots and lots of good schools, and I think
Mm-hmm.
it's 190 schools use the CSS profile. So we can, I'll just keep that in the back of my mind.
Right.
I won't like eliminate it, but I'll just keep the back of my mind that
Right.
that's going to be a hardship
Right.
to do that.
And one of the things, Harry, that you can do for yourself is look at how much can you feasibly pay every month towards college after you
Mm-hmm.
bring in your paycheck and you pay your bills, and
Right.
how much can you pay every month out of that, out of your current income?
Mm-hmm.
How much can you pay from savings? And maybe you have a 529 plan where you've been contributing. And then, is there anyone else in the family who will chip in with, I don't know, $500 a month or $200 a month, to help bring down the cost,
Right.
so that when your son graduates from university, he has about $30,000 worth of subsidized and unsubsidized loans,
Right.
and then you have a portion that you will borrow. So you will pay from your income from your savings, and then you'll probably end up borrowing depending on which school
Right.
your son goes to.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
And
we do. Go ahead.
that is what I call the affordable family contribution.
Okay.
That is what you have looked at your budget, looked at how tolerant you are about borrowing, what amount of loans can you live with, what is your
Mm-hmm.
risk tolerance,
Mm-hmm.
and then what can you pay from current income. And that is what you can afford. And then you'll be able to raise questions of affordability with a financial aid administrator if your son really loves a certain school and you're pretty
Right.
close to swinging it.
Right,
Okay.
right.
Mm-hmm.
And I did want to mention, for the record, I know I've said this to you, but don't touch your 401k.
Oh,
Your
God, no.
retirement needs
No.
to remain yours.
Mm-hmm.
There are people there are people who will take their retirement to pay for college, and I just think that's so heartbreaking, because they're going to be, when they retire, they're not going to have savings. So
Right.
I just
No,
wanted to make
I
that
would
point.
never touch that. And we do have my father, the children's grandfather, set up 529s for them when they were born.
Awesome.
So, we can, if you want, I can give you the amounts of those. But obviously, that would be something you'd probably want to use in this calculation.
Absolutely.
Yes, definitely. Mm-hmm. That's what
Yeah.
it's for.
Right.
Yeah. And we'll be very careful with that, because
Mm-hmm.
the best time to release it is in the spring of sophomore year until
Spring of college sophomore year.
spring of college sophomore year, because they go to the prior. Otherwise, up until 2023, it'll result as the student's income, and it'll be assessed to at 50%, right? So it's going to kick up your EFC. Whereas after this new legislation gets in, regardless of who contributes and pays the tuition, it'll be assessed at the parent's asset rate of 5.64%.
Oh, that's fascinating. So,
Yeah.
So whatever amount is in the 529 is viewed as income for the student?
Yeah, when it's paid to the college, it's the student. It's the student's asset and income. So it's
and it brings your EFC up.
Yeah. So,
wow.
But if you pay it, if you pay it in the spring of sophomore year, because the FAFSA is from the prior year, they will never really see it. And like I said, you wouldn't have to you wouldn't have to do that if the new legislation didn't come in until 2023.
Okay.
So we'll keep an eye on that.
Yes,
okay.
we don't have to worry about it yet. But it's all, I really, Claire was my teacher at UC Irvine for navigating the financial aid network.
Oh, okay.
And I am, she made a convert of me into of being an IEC, an independent educational consultant who thinks about the financial from the beginning.
Right.
It's just so sad when you see these kids who, apply to $75,000 schools, and parents haven't had the discussion with them. You know what? We really can't afford that. It's good to have that conversation between us, but also between the parent and the child about what's feasible. Especially, there's so many kids, like my daughter was, knew she was going to do grad school.
Mm-hmm.
We had our financial planner sit down with her when she wanted to go to a school that was offering Wake Forest was offering her no money. And he said, well, look at this. If you take out this much money, when you graduate with a bachelor's degree, you'll need to be making $160,000 a year to pay off this loan in 10 years.
Right.
And who, and if you're going to go to grad school, that means taking on more debt. So
Right.
she, it's funny because she was really disappointed that she had to go to Elon instead of to Wake Forest. But you know what? It was the best decision she made. And she thanks me still to this day that she was able to come out without any
Without debt.
debt.
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So anyway, we should wrap this up.
Yes.
I'm so
Okay.
glad you got to meet each other. Claire
Oh
is
yeah.
my guru.
Yes.
Well,
Well,
you,
Sarah, Claire's your guru, but you're my guru. So, because
yes,
I don't know how I
yes.
could do this without your help, because it can be so overwhelming. And
It
you
is.
find as a parent you don't want to think about it, so you keep kind of kicking the can down the road, and then you say, okay, it's time to buck up here. We got to address this, and that's what you got to do.
Yes, you're
Yeah.
being so much better prepared, and Karen will give you a list. See, the college list can really drive the the price because admission and financial aid are so intertwined. And when you
Mm-hmm.
have someone who can find the right college that fits your child and is affordable, it's like a match made in heaven.
Right.
I
Yes.
mean,
And they're
it's
there,
priceless.
the I think your county in Maryland is
Mm-hmm.
especially it was true at the school where I taught. The big names are, like if you don't go to one of the big names, you're a failure. At least that's how I'm seeing a lot of kids react. They're not considering there are almost 4,000 schools in the United States, and we have the best university system in the world.
Yeah.
Um, Not everybody has to go to those top 50 schools.
And I'm
And
I'm battling that myself. I think my son's mother says is and he's very smart, works his butt off, but he might not be the Ivy League candidate that both of them think. And I'm trying. That's why I love having you in this situation, because it makes them understand. Okay, this might not be a fit, you know, and it's
Yeah.
okay if you don't go to an Ivy League school. Um,
exactly.
yeah.
Absolutely, yeah, and I was looking at my statistics, but the students who didn't apply early and went regular decision just didn't get in. So your son is going to have to apply this year by
Right.
October or November 1st.
Right.
And those who didn't have SATs didn't get as high the scholarships. In other
Oh, okay.
words, you can go test optional, but you're not going to get the level of scholarships that you would if you had high SATs.
Okay.
So, so going early, not early decision, but early action, and
We
getting
Hmm.
them
talked about
in.
that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
That was something that completely confused me, and I'm so glad Karen clarified that, because early decision and early action are so different and have such different
Yes.
patients.
Yes.
Yeah.
yeah.
So my agenda that I have for your son is
Mhm.
have everything done by November 1st
Right.
so that we can get everything in early action, not
Right.
early
Yeah.
decision.
Right.
So we should wrap it up.
Okay.
My internet connection is terrible. I see everybody's frozen. Um, I'm going to
No,
wait a few seconds till my internet reconnects.
Okay.
I just want to say that it was wonderful to meet you, Harry. I know you're
Okay,
in good
I've got
hands.
everybody's in slow motion, but I'm going to
Okay.
try to wrap this up. Thank you, Harry,
Okay.
for providing us with a real world. I'm sure a lot of people will be able to relate to your situation. The
Yes.
questions that you've been bringing up have been great, and we've got this great resource here in Claire, and
Yes.
I'm really
And
excited to see
Karen.
the book.
Thank you so
Yeah.
much.
You guys
Thank
make a
you.
great. Thank you so much.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. Bye bye.
Okay,
Okay. Thank
I'm
you.
gonna I'm going to stop recording.
Okay.
Goodbye, but don't leave.
Okay.